Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. 5 years ago, I was stuck in life. I was suffering from poor health. I couldn't let go of toxic relationships, and I couldn't manage the emotional reactivity that I had from depression. So I decided to seek help and I started therapy. The first few weeks of therapy, I felt like I was making tons of progress. I was able to bring everything that I had stuck at the bottom level. I was able to peel back the layers. I was able to bring up a lot of things that I had suppressed to the surface. But as time went on, I felt stuck again. And I felt like all the bad habits kept coming back. And the expectation that I had created is that talking about my problems, talking about my trauma, talking about my issues, talking about my beliefs would solve my problems. I was talking about my problems, but I was not taking any actions about my problem. I wasn't doing anything to resolve my problems. So I decided to take things into my own hand. After 2 years of gruesome self-work, self-therapy, looking internally, I peeled back layer after layer, rewriting all the false memories, the things that held me back. I was in a place where I felt like I was in control of my mind. And this is what helped me improve my mental health. It helped me regulate my emotions, and it helped me become the best version of myself. So here are the 4 steps that I took in my self-therapy process that improved my mental health and it transformed my life, and it may do the same for you. Step 1 in my self-therapy process was learning to observe my emotions. My therapist gave me great advice, which was to learn how to sit with your emotions. It was great, but in practice, it was very difficult. So there are 2 things that I did to help myself observe my emotions and be able to sit with my emotions. One was journaling, the other was meditation. How I developed a skill set for journaling was I started brain dumping every morning. In the morning, that is when I'm the sharpest. That is when I have the clearest of mind. That is when I can be the most objective with myself. And so the first thing that I did was I dumped everything that comes to mind. I still do it to this day. And what this did was help me clear my head. It helped me process the emotions that came up. And because I learned the skill set of journaling, I was able to do it throughout the day. Throughout the day was optional, but I used that as a tool to be able to help me clear my mind, to help me understand the emotions that I was going through. So I did the daily actions to start healing. So the problems would come up, but then I was able to use journaling to be able to process my emotions throughout the day. And having that tool and a system to do it allowed me to do the work every single day. Because what would happen before is I would have a situation, a thought would occur, then I would feel an emotion, and then I would act, I would react, or I would have a behavior. Now, if I have a situation, a thought would occur, then emotions would happen, and then there was journaling. It became a filter. And before I brought stuff into the world or before I let anything affect my behavior, I was able to have journal as a sieve, as a filter before I took any action. And that allowed me to slow things down in my life because I was moving through life very quickly, very reactively, and journaling allowed me to slow down. What I used to journal was my phone, and it eliminated a lot of friction. I know a lot of people like to just sit down and manually write, but for me, I wanted to have the ability to do the work every single day. And if I needed to physically sit down and write, it would slow me down. And so I just used my phone because I had my phone on me regularly, and I was able to, when emotions and thoughts or things came up that I needed to process, I was able to process it in the moment. The second thing that helped me observe my emotions better and sit with my emotions was meditation. And I started meditation by doing it 10 minutes every single day. So the first thing that I would do is I would journal, I would clear my head, then I would meditate for 10 minutes every single day. And that was my morning routine, as you would call it. Now, that was my pillar habit, meaning I had to do that. That was a non-negotiable in my life. But in the beginning, I allowed myself to meditate multiple times a day. I allowed myself to meditate to be able to clear my head. I allowed myself to meditate when I felt my heart racing and when I felt my emotions really rise. And journaling and meditation together allowed me to really center myself. And one cue that really helped me while I was meditating was helping myself understand that I get to choose what it is that I want to think, and I get to choose what it is that I want to feel. My emotions don't control me. And the visual cue that I had for myself was don't let myself ride the roller coaster of thoughts and emotions. So I had this visual whenever I used to meditate is that all my thoughts and emotions were a cart. It's like a roller coaster with individual carts, and each thought and each emotion is a cart in and of itself. And I could choose to get into that cart and let that emotion or thought take me for a roller coaster ride, or I could be the observer. I can stand and I can watch the roller coaster go by, and I can just observe all of my thoughts. And this is what allowed me to develop the skill set to be able to say, hey, I can choose what it is that I want to feel. I can choose the emotion. I can choose the thought that I want to go down. And instead of riding the roller coaster of thoughts and emotions, I can get out at any time. And that gave me a lot of power. And these two habits of journaling and meditating became the foundational pillars for me to create a lot of self-awareness. So my current process is I wake up in the morning, I go for a walk, then I will sit down and I journal as I drink my coffee. Then I will meditate for 10 minutes and then I start my day. So this is probably a 30-minute process that I have to just prime myself for the day. And I continue those two pillar habits, which is journaling and meditating. Now I meditate throughout the day. I'll pause, I'll sit, I will observe, and it creates a habit that I have because it's compounded from that 10 minutes of meditation every single day. Step 2 in my self-therapy process was integrating the shadow self and healing my inner child. So while I was going through this process, I discovered Carl Jung's individuation process. And the individuation process allows you to connect with the deeper parts of yourself that are locked away and really help you get to ultimate consciousness, which is you becoming your most conscious self. And a lot of the work that I did with the individuation process helped me get rid of the false mask and fake personas that I had created to please others. It was all these fake identities that I had instilled into my life, maybe from my parents, maybe from society, maybe from peer groups. And I had to shed all of that to be able to understand who I really was and get very real with myself to help myself understand what it is that I truly wanted. So the stages of the individuation process, there's 3 stages. Stage 1 is the shadow self. Stage 2 is the anima or the animus. And stage 3 is the self. So I did a lot of shadow work. And shadow work is looking at the traits that you have ignored or hidden from yourself. And when you're in a highly emotional state, you'll realize there are emotions or thoughts that come up that you need to work with. And if you don't work through those things, you will regret it later because they make you take actions and they affect your behavior in different ways. And another great way to work on your shadow self is not only the thoughts or the emotions that come up, it's observing things that you don't like in others. Because what that does, it gives you a cue that this is a behavior or an emotion or a habit that you have deep down buried in yourself. And you have to bring that up and you have to integrate it with who you are. The habit that I had buried deep down was being selfish, meaning being able to take care of me, being able to spend money on myself. So when I would see people or partners that I was in a relationship with spending money on themselves, I used to get angry. I used to get upset. I used to be like, hey, money is for the necessities. But in reality, I was just suppressing my own needs because that was the story that I told myself, and that was a character trait or a habit that I had deep down buried. So shadow work allows you to bring things that are in the shadow and integrate them so that way they don't come out when you're emotionally reactive. Stage 2 is anima or animus, and this is understanding the polarities that we have within ourselves. And the polarities are your feminine energy or your masculine energy. And it doesn't have to do with male or female. It just has to do with what is the energy and the state that you are in. When you're emotionally reactive, when you're hyper, when you're worried about a whole bunch of stuff, when you're really, really, really excited, when you're heightened, you're in a feminine state. When you are grounded, when you're singularly focused, when you're able to process things and observe better, you're in a masculine state. And each of these energies balance everything out. And I've learned that, and it's helped me a lot inside of my relationship. When my wife is in a feminine state, I get into more of a masculine state. And the masculine state becomes the container for the feminine state. When I'm in my feminine state, my wife is then in the masculine state and she helps me get grounded. And so it has nothing to do with male or female. It just has to do with understanding your energy. And for me, because I was emotionally reactive, I stayed a lot in feminine state, and I needed to learn how to be in a more masculine state to balance out the energies. And so that was a great skill set that I learned. Stage 3 of the individuation process is the self. And this is the stage that you want to get to. So first you work on the shadow, then you understand your energy, states, and polarities. Then you become your ultimate self. And this is where you've integrated all parts of yourself. This is where you continue to do the work and you're in full control of your life and your identity. This is where you want to get to, and this is the full state of consciousness. Now, when we say full state of consciousness, it doesn't mean that the work is done and you are perfect. It just means that you're in control and you're able to continue to do the work as things come up because you've done a lot of the heavy lifting already. While I did the individuation process, another thing that helped me was having conversations with my inner child. When you are taking a look at a lot of these suppressed emotions, a lot of the suppressed beliefs, a lot of the suppressed stories and memories that you have. For me, when I was journaling, a lot of the conversations were with my inner child. And when I was in an emotional state, I would slow down, I would journal, and I would have a conversation with myself. And part of that conversation, it gets kind of meta. We're able to have a conversation with your inner child of, hey, what memory do you remember? And then you're able to look at it objectively as an adult and say, hey, that memory hurt you, but that was when how you were observing it as a child. As an adult, this is what really happened. And it allows you to really close the wound and heal the wound that you've had as a child, and allows you to heal properly. And this helped me understand the memories, the negative beliefs that I had, the negative self-talk that I had, that I replayed over and over and in my head that were ruling my life. I was able to quiet a lot of the inner noise to be able to settle myself down. Step 3 in the self-therapy process was regulating my physiology. A big part of improving my mental health was improving my physical health. And the way that I did that was, first, I focused on my nutrition. I started eating more calories, because when you're in a state of a caloric deficit, or when you're not eating enough, that's when people get hangry. So I stopped skipping meals, I increased my calories, and that helped me stay grounded throughout the day, because my body's like, hey, you have enough food. And I went into a surplus, which gave me enough fuel to have the brain capacity to think harder, to push myself, not only at work, but not only physically, but also it helped me push my brain to its limits to be able to think and have the conversations with myself, because it is hard. It is going to be hard. And you're going to need the fuel. You're going to need the calories to be able to process things that you need to process. The other thing that I did to regulate my physiology was hard physical activity. I started beating my body in the gym every single day. And for me, I found a lot of success when I'm working on any project to pair that up with physical stress. So right now I'm building a business, I'm pairing that up with running. I'm doing one physically hard thing with another thing, which is building another business from the ground up. And so while I was doing a lot of my inner work, I was also trying to gain muscle, because that allowed me to have a win every single day. It allowed me to create that momentum inside of my life. So not only was I winning physically, as I made progress and as I did the work every single day to heal, I just became a better version of myself. So I paired the two. Another thing that I did to regulate my physiology was learning belly breathing. And this is one of the greatest things that has helped me, because the vagus nerve runs through the stomach. And that's why when you are hungry, you get hangry, you get angry, you get irritated. And so if you're getting in an emotional state, and you become more emotionally reactive. And what helped me throughout the day stay conscious, stay grounded, get into my masculine state, was belly breathing. And the way that you do that, you breathe into your nose, you breathe into your belly. And what that does, it gets you out of your head and it helps you get grounded. As I do it right now, I am able to slow things down. I'm able to speak differently. I'm able to be more conscious with my words. I'm able to be more conscious with my thought. And I'm going to do this till the end of the video so you can see how much of a difference the energy and belly breathing makes from the beginning of the video to the end. That way you can understand what that looks like. The fourth thing that I did to be able to go through my self-therapy process was shifting my identity. I talk about this a lot. To achieve something that you've never done, you have to become somebody you've never been. And in order to achieve your goals, you have to become the person who can accomplish those goals. Your identity is the image that you've created yourself, or it's been passed on to you by others. And your identity is a mix of your habits, it's a mix of your belief, it's a mix of your experiences. And the reality is you can change your identity at any time. If you don't choose your identity, somebody else will choose it for you. And you can choose to be anyone that you want to be. And so to reach your goals, a lot of people think is, I want this thing, and I must have this, so I must do the actions. But there's one step before that. It's actually be, do, then have. Become the person who can do the things to have the life that you want. And so you have to become the person. That person is going to take the actions, and those actions are going to lead you to the life that you want. So think about it this way. There are two people who are trying to quit smoking. One person gets offered a cigarette and says, no, I quit. The other person gets offered a cigarette and says, no, I am not a smoker. This person has changed their identity completely. They've moved on from who they were to who they are becoming. And so that's what it looks like for you to become a different version of yourself, because the life that you want cannot happen by simply taking action. It has to happen by you becoming a better version of yourself, because otherwise your old habits, your old beliefs, the old stories that you tell yourself, the negative self-talk that you have, it's going to keep pulling you down away from the actions that you need to take to build the life that you want. And the way that I did that was I had something called a becoming formula. It was a document and it was a daily reminder to myself of the person that I was trying to become to take the actions that I needed to every single day. It became the anchor that reminded me of who I needed to become. And because I reminded myself of who I needed to become every single day, I was able to then change my actions consciously. I was able to do the inner work to become that person that could then have the life that I wanted. So remember, to improve your life, it will take small actions every single day because tiny changes over time add up to a big transformation.